All right, and last but not least, let me talk about one of 2021's most highly anticipated shows by Mortal Kombat. So how I got to see this, right? Because like I was saying earlier, I wasn't sure whether I should have seen it on big screen or whether I should wait till it come out this Friday times recorded here. But I was like, well, what happened basically, right, is that on this day today, as we recorded this, um, current went. Yeah, we had no lights practically for about 5 hours, right? So me just bored out of my mind. I was just like, screw it, let me just go and see this show, So at least I have a upper, I have the upper hand basically before everybody else waits until it comes out on HBO Max. And if it's worth it, that's something I'll talk about later on. If it's worth it, I'll rewatch it and just do like a spoiler review there. But I kind of do want to do a spoiler review on it, and I kind of want to watch it over again, but not for the reason that you're thinking about, right? So basically, what this movie is about, right? So as you can tell for the first trailer that came out, the first and only trailer that came out, right? This is a reboot basically of the Mortal Kombat movie franchise, right? Which we've covered before, right? We actually did a retrospective review of the first movie. We still enjoy it for what it is, despite its flaws, right? And we made the argument about whether it's the best video game movie ever made. I said yes, but for me personally, that's not really saying a lot. And I would say also to like I'm not gonna go out of my way to see every single um video game movie that comes out because why should I, right? So for me, because I just have just because it resonated with me there, you know what I mean? From when it came out, I kind of think it is the best, but once again, that's not really saying much, right? But something that we really had to talk about here, well, I guess touch on, right, which we talked about with the Mortal Kombat review, right, the 1995 one, is the idea of video game movies themselves and why they usually don't work, right? Um, I would say that basically it's a matter of how the creators, not just so much the director, how the creators treat the material. Because on the one hand, you could say, well, I'm doing this for the fans, so all this stuff is just basically fan service and the fans are going to love it. But you kind of alienate everybody else. Or you try to do it in such a way that you want the non-fans to kind of get what's going on, but at the same time you kind of just undermine what made the films great, and then the fans themselves kind of watch it and be like, yeah, this is just not, this it feels like you kind of stab them in the back, like this is not what I played and what I love to play. You basically water it down to kind of make it appeal to people who don't care about it, right? So you always have that, yeah, just basically that imbalance basically now, yeah, go on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always give my 2 cents of why you know I always had a working with 2 cents of what'll make a video game movie works, and what you have to do is create a really strong story, and then pull from what is make the aspect of that work in the cell. You have to do that, right? And then make an idealized version of gameplay, whatever the game is, and this thing, especially if it's action game or something like that, make a super idealized version of that, right? So Nathan Drake, that means you had to do some amazing acrobatic and combat shit and somewhere else, the best of the Indiana Jones shenanigans, right? It's that you kind of have to do that. That's how I always see, this thing now. How to make a video game movie work? It don't make sense trying to waste time on um trying to come up with your own thing or making up a set of bullshit. Like, Paul W.S. Anderson, the reason his shit fail is because he's making up a set of bullshit. Like that 90 fucking games, chill out. You know? So
Well,
it's
to be fair, what you should be referring to is Annihilation, right? That's the sequel,
oh
which he
well,
did
no, no,
that
no, no,
direct.
no.
Is
Well,
is
I,
John
I was I was
Leonetti?
right. Well, actually my mind went to the Resident Evil franchise. But yeah, yeah, Annihilation as well, right? I cannot forget Mortal Kombat Annihilation or something.
Yeah,
Um
but good points with the Resident Evil because yeah, it's kind of forget he did that too, right? But you're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so it's just this idea of don't fight up making that whole paradigm don't come up with your own thing unless you could do something with it and make it work iconically. In the original, like one of the reasons the original Mortal Kombat movie works is because it didn't have anything going for it. It's such a different time and product at its time. Um, and it didn't have that. So much time passes, and then on top of that is the fucking 90s. Like, I admit it. So I will admit, and I think you'll concede this as well, which is, well, yeah, we were 10, and that's why
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, when we heard the song, we thought it was like the greatest theme song in the history of anything. So, yeah, we
exactly,
just love it. So,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. No, yeah. So last point, I just the what you're doing when you're doing with the material, as I say, how to make a comic book movie work, and how to, at least how to get away with the bullshit, is that embrace the nonsense, make it work, don't waste time on stupidness, and then sell the central conceit whilst trying to be, don't try to be too original, but you're selling the conceit in a workable sense. If you understand if you understand that, that's how I kind of see it. So yeah, whatever.
yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, what this is just essentially, like I said, just a reboot of the original, the duology, the Mortal Kombat duology. So we start off with Sub Zero and Scorpion. We see how their rivalry pretty much start. It involves a descendant of Scorpion basically, and who we end up seeing who the character is soon enough. But then it just cuts to years later, like sorry, I should say centuries later, because yeah, it opens like in the 17th century, right, which I thought was pretty cool. So we are introduced to the character that we were really iffy about for the moment we saw the first trailer. That would be Cole Young, right? Who's played by Louis Tan. We weren't sure who this guy was. We were wondering if he was Johnny Cage or whatnot, you know what I mean? But they kind of established, no, he is just this guy, right? And as they say in the trailer, he was born with this with the same Mortal Kombat logo, or the insignia, sorry, on his body, right? So they treat it as a birthmark. But through some circumstances, the boy Jimmy from Supergirl, aka who plays Jax, right? McCann Brooks. He
yeah,
shows up now and he's seeing, well, yeah, basically he's been tracking people. He and Sonya Blade have been tracking people with that same tattoo, basically, that same insignia, right? And what they've learned over the years is that it all relates to this big tournament called Mortal Kombat, right? As you know, it's about different realms fighting for just for their realms to exist, right? And the champion has been in Outworld, so the main bad guy in this case is Shang Tsung. And so far they've won 9 victories, so basically if they defeat Earth Realm, that's what they call the realm of Earth, basically, then they will be the absolute victors and they will just control everything, right? So yeah, so basically they just like, well, Cole learns that yes, they have other people with the same dragon insignia, right? But they are being hunted basically and killed, right? Just by Shang Tsung's forces. Here's the thing with this, right? Now on a guilty pleasure level, which I went into this, because believe you me, the less you have your expectation, the lower your expectations are, the less of a blow you'll feel watching this. It would hurt as much as it would if you have expectations real high for this. Because I know there will be a lot of people that are gonna go into this one like excited, losing this shit, going out of their minds, expecting this thing to be the greatest thing ever. So just to get this out of the way, it's not. It's kind of bad.
okay,
Actually,
wow.
it's not kind of bad. It's bad.
Oh no.
But is a type of bad dread which I would have let slide if they just stuck to certain things, dread. And once
I,
again,
I think I think I know what you might
we're
mean.
back to the whole talk about you know how why video game movies don't work, dread. This is just yet another example of why they don't work.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, go on. You was gonna say sorry.
No, yeah. I was just thinking, yeah, when you tell me bad, I was like, okay, it's bad, but like you had to stick to certain things that, yeah, I was able to, I have a feeling I know what it is. Why is the movie in its entirety yet, so ever?
Yeah. So let me just get the good right out of the way because there is good. There is good, right? The good, very well made, very well shot, very competent. Some great establishing shots. You know what I mean? They actually filmed I believe they filmed the entirety of this film in Australia. So they use some they have some desert shots here or there. You know what I mean? Like it's a very competent, very well made film. I'll give it that. They really put effort into making this thing look good. I want to say that though is that for some people they might just kind of roll their eyes and be like, oh, it's just some stupid video game movie. But you can watch this and kind of compare it to like the stuff that you would see like in a Marvel film or text in
Yeah.
a DC film, right? It's very well made. You can tell that they put money to making this thing look good, right? Some of the casting choices, I actually appreciate the fact that they cast some Asian actors to play characters like Hiroyuki Sanada to play Scorpion, Joe
Right.
Taslim
Yeah.
to play Sub Zero.
Yeah, the guy.
Um,
I think I see in the
you know,
casting. There's some good people. Like the guy who played in Raiden is that guy from The Dark Knight. I'm like, yeah, okay, I remember him. Let's go.
so I do appreciate the fact that they do that, right? So no French actor played Raiden again. We not doing that again, right? We not doing that. That was so 995, right?
Right.
Also, the emphasis on making this film as R-rated as possible. Like for me personally, right? It does not go as far as say like a NC-17 film. Like you're not gonna get this full out gore fest in this, right? But you do get some sweet kills. There's one in particular, I'm not gonna spoil, but it is legit a flawless victory, and it totally worked. I was loving it, but that's just because the character who died, I honestly did not really care about, and I have no clue who that character is at all.
Okay.
And let's touch on that. So me, I will not say that I know everything about Mortal Kombat. I know just the 90s games and a bit of the 2000s. I don't really know everything about the revival stuff, right? That's the ones that NetherRealm Studios put out, right? So
Right.
I know that one went really in depth into the world building and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's why it's been praised. Now I know, like I was kind of thinking this show would have kind of touched on those revival games, and not so much the original games that we grew up on, right? And maybe they did in some parts though, but I could tell. Like I don't even need to know the lore to know this, right? But yeah, they unfortunately changed stuff up. And you'd think it would be for the better or at least for the simpler, but it's actually for the worse, dread.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if like a diehard fan watches this and then complains about, oh, why did you do this, why did you do that. And it's
Right.
not like, oh, they have to stick to like how the revival games were, how the original games were, but it's just simple little things, right? And you're there
Yeah.
like, why would you do that? I'll say like this without spoiling. They throw in so much characters into this show, Dread, and they're like, okay, like, all right, like for us who grew up at the games, we will know who character A and character B are, right? We know who they are. But how they brought into the show, yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
all right, but why, how, what this character had to do with this? How they bring it so bring him or her into the film so quickly, what they doing here, you know what I mean? And it's just them juggling a bunch of characters, unfortunately, with this show. So you're juggling Jackson, Cole, and Sonya, and Kano. Some characters just end up being in the background, unfortunately. And you just they're like, all right, if like the original film, you just focus on three characters that we following throughout, and then everybody else who they meet, it's like, oh, that person, it would have make sense. And just looking back at that old film, that made sense also because some people never play the games now, so you
Right.
have to
Exactly.
kind of explain it to them in a sense, but make it simple, right?
Right.
And that's why I felt this show feel that trend. It just threw characters in, and it just felt too much like fan service. You're like, oh well, you know who this guy is.
Right.
Oh, he looks cool, and look what he's doing. He's doing the same thing that he does in the game, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
And even if I was like a diehard fan of the game, I would still make that statement. That's not enough. You can't just throw a character in, just expect me to go crazy because, oh, it's him. I saw him in the trailer. I saw her in the trailer. Okay, what did they do in the film? Oh, they're just there to just fight. All right, okay, well, whatever. Even right down to the conceit itself, like what's really going on.
Right.
Don't want to see what happens, but it's totally the opposite of what the original film was. And
Okay.
just to touch on one brief thing, right? This is kind of a spoiler, but one brief thing. Even if, even like for people I imagine who went to the first movie, to the 95 movie for the first time, right? Not knowing who characters were, right?
Right.
At least they went in with the notion of, oh, this is like Enter the Dragon. That's like that one movie with Bruce
Right.
Lee. Maybe they never saw it before in their life, but at least they know what the premise is. They have a sense of it. It's a tournament, right? They didn't even stick with that. And I'll stop there.
Right.
It
Okay.
just all ends up just being a bunch of random fights with characters, and you're supposed to care about all this because it's Mortal Kombat, you. You know what I mean? Even
Right.
right now to Scorpion and Sub-Zero, they just kind of forget until like the very end. And yes, I'll admit the fight itself is cool, but there's moments in it, swear to God, Trent, where it just legit took me out of it, but because
I
once
understand.
again, it just goes off of, oh, when you play the game, so you know who the character is and what he's supposed to do. Or if you remember early on in the film, he said this one line, and you're supposed to remember that one line in the
Yeah.
scene, so
So
it makes sense.
I
It's
get,
that, right?
yeah.
And it just
The thing is right. So again, I've not seen the entire film, so it's kind of shiver me timbers and watch part of it just to get a sense of what he was trying to do. And I heard little things in it. I was like, I kind of get what they're kind of going for here. So I heard like they drop the term. They say you defeated Eddie Tobias. I like that. That's a little thing.
yeah,
Right?
those
Yeah.
those are nice
Little
little things.
things,
Like
little things like that, little touches. Like they know the shit.
yeah.
Whatever. We'll see. Yeah, go ahead
Yeah,
though.
no, no, no. To be fair, I'm not saying that they didn't try. Right, you could tell that okay, we really want to do right by the fans. Take note of that, the fans, right? We want to give them the Mortal Kombat movie that they've always wanted to see. You
Right.
know, all the kills, all the fatalities, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Seeing these characters larger than life. You know what I mean? And not a product of mid 90s cinema, right? But it's really to the detriment of, ironically, everybody else and the fans themselves, right? Because once again, you have to play to, and this is one of those shows that makes video game movies so hard to critique. Now, and I feel it's been so for eons now. Because I don't want to come off as some old guy who just doesn't understand the material, and I'm just watching all these characters just do all these things, and I'm bored,
What?
right? Because that
Yeah.
was like a criticism that I know some critics, I'm not gonna call names, had with Zack Snyder's Justice League, right?
Right.
You just see all this stuff, it's like none of this makes any sense. It's boring, right? But to us who know the characters, it's like, yeah, we get it, but still all these calls don't make any sense. But you just kind
Right.
of watch it to see how it plays out there. I feel this is actually not feel it is the same way with this movie here.
Right.
It's legit. You try to please the fans so much that you alienate everybody else, but at the same time you're doing stuff against what what the fans know about the games themselves,
Yeah.
that they themselves kind of don't know what to make, and all you're just giving them is, oh, you want to see this character fight this character? Well, it's here. You want to see this
Right.
character kill this character? It's there, but it just loses the essence of what the games were about.
Yeah.
Sorry to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. No. As I said, one of the problems with video games, a classic problem with video games, is that is there's that really funny meme of this guy and this thing took a shit and then it in the bowl of another guy and then he take a shit and then the other guy take it and they just eating each other's shit going down the thing. And that's kind of the problem with it, is that
Yeah.
most video games of popular culture is derivative of something else. You can kind of get away with it because it was a video game. You're playing it. It's interactive. But now when it's time to make the movie now, is the snake eating its own tail at this point, right? And very few people could get the material when you're taking something from that, it carried the remix culture a little too far, right? That's a classic problem. Yeah, very few people get it unless you're making a world or interesting world building. Even stuff that I like I love all of the Blizzard fantasy, dark fantasy stuff. But yeah, that shit just derivative from Lord of the Rings. Sorry,
Yeah,
they don't bring
it
anything.
is. It
They
is.
don't bring anything new to the
Yeah.
table. Yeah,
Yeah. So a couple of things before I get to Rita, right? But what makes this so frustrating to me, Jen, and actually just overall disappointed, Jen, is that we all went to, or I should say, I went into this trend at least thinking, okay, like, say what you want about the old film, right? The 95 film. At least it did something, paved the way for other films to, at least try to make entertaining features based off of beloved games. So I felt that this was just going
yeah,
to do the same thing, but just add more, just bump it up to R rated that, just
right,
delivered it. But when it's just only, or should say mostly relied on, oh, just giving us all those visceral thrills, all that kind of stuff. I mean, because yeah, I mean, if you shut your brain off, sorry, I just watch this as just some mindless action martial arts film, you'll
Yeah,
enjoy it, right? But
yeah,
by now, Dre, with a franchise like this, Dre, like, come on, we just deserve better than this. I'm not saying that this should be deep or heavy or it's
yeah.
about
Normal
more
thing.
than what it is, but no,
Right.
but still, if the basis of it, if at the core of what it is not even existent in the film, it just feels like it just cannot be training fans. Just like it just is in other words, it's almost like you're just taking your favorite characters from the game and just having them fight, but it has nothing to do with the game itself. It's just them
Yeah.
fighting and oh well, you want that? Oh look that.
I'm in the camp that defends. How I put it right? I'm in the camp that defends the new games in a sense of like it just decided to just change up a bunch of stuff, but like all the changes is decent changes. Yeah, like I don't mind that. But when you tell me that they change a bunch of stuff and they don't work, like nah, well, you had to think that out, or if you give a shit, no. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like it just betraying the fans, right? Not
Wow.
just the NetherRealm fans, but the ones who grew up on the games, right? You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? I don't want to sound like some old man, like you know what I mean? Just these new films just don't get it, man. But still, at its core, it's about this thing. I don't want to say what it is. I'll say the spoiler.
Right.
But they didn't even have that. It was just a
Yeah, that,
series of characters just fighting for the sake of fighting, and that's it.
nothing.
And I will just say one thing though, not even a spoiler, but before we get to rating, right? This show is so beside what it's supposed to be, Dread,
Yeah.
that even a figure, that's all I'll say, iconic figure, is almost non-existent until the very end, Dread. And it just shows just how detached it is, sorry,
Wow.
from the material. One figure.
Right.
And like you see it and you think like you want to feel excited for it, but it's like no, it's almost like you just throw that away and just did your own version of the game, and you just put this in here to just be like, it's still the game, like we changed a bunch of shit, but it's still the game, It's like no, Dread.
But
So yeah, boy, this was an absolute disappointment for me, but I was on the fence of how I should like while I was watching it, I was on the fence of how I should view it. Should I view it as a guilty pleasure? Should I watch it as a so bad it's good? Should I watch it as, oh well, at least they try a thing, but it didn't quite play out the way it did, but at least they try, and not
right.
as silly as the old film was, but I would say the old film at least. Oh, and I forgot one big thing, Joe. One big thing, right? This is not even a spoiler. What this show feels heavily at, Dread, is characterization, Dread.
Yeah.
I know it's a video game movie. I know it's about people fighting. I know. But
Yeah.
even in the first film, they just give you just enough for you to know who character A is, who character B is, why they're doing what they're doing, and most importantly, Dread, why we should care.
Yeah.
I am seeing characters that I know, characters that I've played in the game, just show up and do their thing. Sometimes they do something, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just pop in for no reason. Sometimes they just don't. Sometimes they show up in the weirdest places. There's a character who shows up at an absolute weird place, and I'm not even gonna say, and the circumstances beyond it is just weird. I
Yeah.
don't understand what the point of it was,
Okay.
but yeah.
I'll I'll
So
I'll I'll watch it myself. I'll
well,
see.
well, I that's the thing. I want you to see it in particular because
Yeah,
when
I'll
we
watch it
do our
myself. See how
spoiler
good.
review, I think we
Right.
could go really further in depth and really talk about what did work. But I guess I really want to hear people's views of it, Jed,
Right. Right.
especially from fans of it.
Yeah.
But for me, boy, I sorry, the first movie is still the best one.
Right.
This did not even come close, Jed. And there's a 25-year gap. Sorry,
Yeah. So,
26-year gap between
Paul.
movies.
Yeah. Yeah. How you could mess up and do worse than Paul Anderson, son.
Boy.
All right.
So
So
on the fence, I was going to give this a 2.5 out of 5 by see it if you want to. But at the moment, by strong two to I like 2.5 out of 5, man.
wow, sad.
That's how low I had to go with this way.
Yeah.
I saw this in theaters. I legit should have watched this home. I should have watched this in my
That's sad.
house. Yeah. I would tell people this, watch this in your house. Don't waste your time. It's not even worth seeing on big screen, John. I don't care
Sad.
if it's on IMAX or 40X, whatever, it's not
Yeah.
worth it, Dread. But I'm really curious to see how people respond to this. And not just people who just gonna watch it and be like, oh, it's just some sort of derivative summer blockbuster movie, and oh, it's crap because I don't understand or know who these characters are and whatnot. But really, people who know the game, who know the characters, or at least familiar with it, are really curious to hear what they think, Jim. And this is the
Right.
camp that I fall in, yeah. But for me, this could have been so much better, Jim, with all the hype and just basically what they had going for it, boy. And they just dropped the ball, Jim. I'm sorry. Just sorry.
Sad.
Major
Sad.
disappointment, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Sad. Real sad. Yeah, I see.
Because of what I just talked about, I was thinking about this on my way home after watching this. I'm gonna do a very special, spoiler review of this movie here, of Mortal Kombat, right? Because I want to do a versus trend.
Okay.
95 Mortal
Versus.
versus 2021 Mortal.
Yeah, see.
Reason being is because I know I gonna have these idiots that will come and defend this show and be like, boy, you cannot like this, boy, like dog violence and stuff, Trent.
Right.
It's way better than the original one, but I can come and tell you, no,
Here's why.
it's worse.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I will show you. I will compare and contrast. I will show you just how bad this movie is compared to a movie from Paul W.S. Anderson that came out in 95. I'm going to show you that. So yeah, that's what it's going to be, Trent. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I see.
Hey, this is Matthew Bailey, and I hope you've enjoyed this segment of the BS Beats and Bailey podcast. If you'd like to hear the full episode, hit up my link tree. On the other side of my head are 2 videos you can check out. Like this video if you like it, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell as well. Thanks for listening, and until the next one, take care, peace.